element. Hello, can you guys hear me? Hello?
Sorry, Rinpoche, hit continue.
Oh, okay. Should I press the continue?
Hit continue. Yep, hit continue.
Okay, all right.
Okay, yep.
Okay. So, very interesting. I'm sure you all probably have your personal experience. I asked somebody one time, number of years ago, during one of the teaching, somebody told me that it was a lady who told me during full moon, a woman experiences more emotion, That was very interesting. Also, like I think cycle of period, cycle of that. So those energies, which is affecting our inner elements, and then and then that elements directly affecting one's mind. I think there is something, when we say like a 10 million times multiplication or 100 million times multiplying, there is something, of course we can't just like, there's no sign from the sky saying this is 10 million today and whatever you're doing, or this is 100 million, but there is some correlationship, the external element and internal element, definitely. Otherwise, they wouldn't just made it up. So there's a profound impact in our being and our cause and effect today. So therefore, countries like in Asia today, not only Buddhists, those who follow the faith in Buddhism, but also those who follow the faith in Hinduism too. They told me that they do like a lot of act of kindness and act of generosity on this day. And also from the tantric point of view, it is very deeper meaning on our inner, wind channels and energy, and from the yogic point of view, how it affects our consciousness and the expression, the link between consciousness and the effect of that element, outer element, inner element. So there is some profound things happening during this period. Like, for example, full moon, something profound happening. So like women's cycle, or then, how emotion one goes through. So they all kind of like heightens up in some way, we can say. It brings it to like a higher level. So anyway, it is said that solar eclipse have 100 million times multiplication, uh, whether it's good or whether it's bad. So one needs to try to avoid doing negative things, particularly during that time, because of the number of how it will increase to that amount of energy. And then to do good, to increase the goodness, and to uh, stop negative, such as killing, such as, any act of negativity, affliction. So those are like people pay attention. And the monasteries would do ceremonies today. And even the tantrikas, yogis and yoginis, those who live in the mountains, those who are, of course, they're always doing their practice, but they're more focused today, such as like recitation of mantras. Because mantra recitation, you build up the energy through the mantra recitation, whether it's a healing mantra or increasing mantra or magnetizing mantra or wrathful mantra, one would one builds up that energy. So therefore, they are more focused like that. So therefore, I suggest people, even it's tough, like getting up at 1 in the morning or 2 in the morning, but this can be great beneficial because it doesn't happen all the time. It only happens like few times a year, sometimes one or two or whatever. So we gain tremendous merit. And merit is the one which merit and demerit is the one which defines our present well-being. Our we can say we have this physical body and the inner mind. The physical aspect of the body, uh, its well-being, healthy, and rest of all the positive qualities come from merit, which is cause and effect. Of course, merit do not just comes out of nowhere. Merit comes from cause and effect, as well as our um, deterioration of health and many other things, uh, such as all kinds of suffering or physical ailment. That again comes from cause and effect. And of course, there's something natural, like when we get old, then, the four major suffering of human being: birth, old age, sickness, and death. Those are unavoidable. And of course, it's not the same to everyone. Some people go through more intense, some people go through lesser intense. But overall, the four major suffering of human being is birth, old age, sickness, and death. The futility of life. Uh, and as much as it's a pain and suffering in a way that our body tell us that we need to get out of that suffering, but at the same time we realize the the mortality or futility of this body, that if we get attached to it and we only see this as something real, existence, then we are just creating further cause to be born again and again and again in this condition, what is known as samsara. So as long as we are clinging to this phenomena of seeing everything as permanent, seeing everything as real, there's a saying: to see the ignorance of seeing impermanent thing into permanent. That's ignorant. The ignorant of seeing, uh, um, there are many things like that, seeing in the wrong way. And seeing the right way is very important. Seeing the truth is very important. And then really, when you examine the Buddha Dharma, when Buddha gave the Four Noble Truth, uh, we need to examine one by one, step by step, to know reality, to know the truth. That's really the how to tread the path in the Buddha Dharma. Buddhism, Shakyamuni Buddha, he proclaimed, "O monks and the learned ones," means he didn't say stupid one. He said learned ones, mean those who use their mind. "O monks and the learned ones, as you examine a gold, if you buy a gold, you will check the purity of the gold. Likewise, you check my teaching. Don't just accept it because of like veneration. Accept it if you see truth in that." And that's been really the quest, finding truth. Without discovering truth, we can never solve the problem of samsara. And then when we talk about truth, we're going to deal directly, the questions come with our ignorance, such as seeing impermanent thing into permanent, such as seeing instead of emptiness, we see as some inherent existence, whether in the external phenomena or whether in the internal phenomena, consciousness. So those examination, those discovery become extremely important with the Buddha Dharma, because we can say that Buddha Dharma is not based on simply a faith, but the Dharma is based on finding truth. His Holiness Dalai Lama speak about Buddha was not just, who came and taught the Dharma, but Buddha was really like a scientist, means checking out, analyzing, investigating, discovery. And that is so important. He himself have given us the liberty to check, like he said, like you will check your goal, same thing, you check my teaching. He didn't say you just follow it, blind faith. Buddha never said that. Buddha said check it, analyze. So in some way, it's called the proclamation of lions roar. Because when the lions roar in the jungle, all the small animals get shrink, meaning all ignorant shrinks in the presence of truth. So whether how that is, we personally need to embark on that quest, finding truth. That's the point, finding truth, finding what's the reality. And unless we each and everyone do not do that, there is no savior. In fact, in the Dharma, it says oneself is one's own savior. Buddha said that. Oneself is one's own savior. Just simply, praying that may my suffering goes away, may I go to heaven, one is not going to go to heaven. Suffering is not going to dissolve. If you work with the very cause of the suffering, which is ignorant, once you remove that ignorance, you will find liberation. It's clear as that. In order to do that, we need to go step by step. First, one is to hear the Dharma. After hearing the Dharma, then one is to reflect on the Dharma of the meaning. There's a step, hearing, reflecting, and practice. It didn't say that you just hear and you are liberated. You need to hear. In fact, in the words of my perfect teacher, Kunzang Lame Shelung, what is Tibetan known, words of my perfect teacher, it explained about how to hear the Dharma too. So much so that you need to really discover this truth by yourself. It cannot be done by a third party, that you need to directly get involved and unravel this mystery of, if I use the word mystery, the mystery of ignorant. How to unravel it. You need to discover that. For example, it says, when you hear the Dharma, the mistake of how to hear the Dharma, you should not do that. You need to avoid that. It says, while the teaching is given, you're not listening. It's like a pot which is put upside down. No matter how much water is poured on top of the water, then nothing will get inside that pot because you put the pot upside down and you're pouring the water on the top. So nothing get inside. You don't hear. At the end of the lecture, teaching, you just don't know what you hear. And then yila mizi shabdol tabitu. First, the nawar mizin kabub tabitu, yila mizin shabdol tabitu. Now, then even you hear, then you don't concentrate, you don't focus. Then it's like a pot with a hole. Pot with a hole, no matter how much you pour water, it will just go away. At the end, there's nothing left in the pot. So we should remember the teaching, focus to the teaching. First, listen carefully. Then second, hold the teaching carefully. Then the third mistake is when hearing the Dharma, nyomong tangde tukchin tabugyun. Hearing the teaching with affliction is like a poison. When you come to hear the Dharma, you should have completely open mind, unbiased mind. And of course, those who are who have been practicing Dharma, you come with joy and happiness to hear. But if you come to hear the Dharma, today I will know what the teacher is saying, and then I will able to, you know, uh, uh, impress that to other people. Or I will know this and I will write a book and make money and make my name, fame, and power like that. Then you came to hear the Dharma, but actually your main motivation, attitude is affliction for fame, power, wealth, whatever. And that is like a poisonous. You don't you may hear the word dharma, but you make that into like a worldly, ordinary thing, which is like affliction. So therefore, one should avoid all those mistakes and then listen with openness, concentration, and without affliction. And then truly like listening and directly imply the teaching on your mind. Then you will discover who you are. Then you will, our whole point is discovering truth. And for truth, one is to first hear it, then one is to examine it, each meaning, in fact, each words of the Dharma, one is to interpret it, what it meant, the teaching meant relatively, what the teaching meant absolutely. For example, when the teaching is given, it says, when you listen to a teaching from a teacher, you should not see the teacher as a person, um, but you should listen to the teaching, you know. And teaching, you should not listen to the words, but you should look at the meaning of the teaching. Meaning, you should not relate from the conventional level. Of course, you need to sometimes understand conventional level of teaching too. But the essence of the Dharma cannot be understood from the conventional level. It has to be understood from the unconventional level, which is the wisdom itself. So that's where the truth is, in the wisdom. So therefore, there are ways to listen to the Dharma, and there are ways to how to reflect. And then once we have this proper um, condition, the right condition, then interdependent uh, nature or the truth of interdependence, we can understand the Dharma in working with our own mind. So the whole point of Buddhism, you know, when the when Buddha spoke, do not take what I said so, check it, analyze. Buddha wasn't interested in converting people. If he says that, you just believe in me, otherwise you go to hell, that's like, you know, some level of affliction of uh, my thing and to my kingdom to grow and my ideas to grow. Buddha didn't say that because the quest of spiritual practice is discovering one's own truth, true nature. That's the main thing. And then if you look at Buddha's own life, he saw the birth, old age, sickness, and death. And he questioned a lot about that. He really thought about, sick person, and then the dying person. And then he saw the saint, and he asked his charioteer, what that person do? He said, he's trying to discover truth. So then Buddha, after seeing the futility and mortal nature of human being, then he wants to find a truth so he can end this suffering, dukkha. Sanskrit is dukkha. How to end this dukkha or suffering? And then he first he went to meet his two teachers who were Hindu teachers, because at that time Hinduism was the only religion at that time. And then after receiving all the Hindu teachings to the level of uh, infinite space, infinite consciousness, existence or non-existence, uh, or non-existence or existence, all the extreme. He went to all the extreme, to the highest level of mind consciousness, according to the Hindi teaching. But still, Buddha wasn't satisfied because there's still some kind of, you know, eternalistic grasping, seeing as permanent thing. And so Buddha wasn't satisfied. And then Buddha went to Narayana river. He sat down under the next to the river with ascetic practice. Those days there were sadhus in India, they are called the saints, they're ascetic practice. Even today, if you go to the river Ganges, there are a lot of Hindu yogis who do ascetic practice, such as some people um, practicing a particular divinity, a god, whether it's Shiva or Brahma or Vishnu, like according to Hindu teaching, they will raise one leg up for 5 years or 7 years or 10 years until they get whatever they're seeking. That kind of ascetic practice. And then also making like a burning fire on four sides of one's self, and you sit in the middle. And so, like painstaking through pain, then you probably see some vision. I think American Indians also, I heard they seek for vision by go to a very steam, hot, whatever it's called, yeah, in a teepee and sweat lodge. And then when you stay too long, then you get some vision, I don't want to disrespect American Indian. They may have their own way, but when you get really high fever, then you will begin to see things. Sometimes. So whether it's like being in a sweat lodge too hot, your brain is getting too hot, or whatever. So people have all kinds of approach trying to seek the truth. But after Buddha spent 6 years of ascetic practice, eating one grain a day, then he says drinking only sipping for like altogether it was 6 years of ascetic practice. And then Buddha, it wasn't, satisfying to Buddha. And then after 6 years of ascetic practice, then the lady Sujata, she offered Buddha a cream of the milk. And after drinking that, then his whole body, which was so weakened by ascetic practice, brought him nourish, and his mind got clear. And he was see things clearly instead of mind being drawn and so tightness. And then Buddha realized that at that time, just ascetic practice, in any form of ascetic practice, is not the path to realize, discover truth, because your mind and body gets so exhausted that you can't see things clear. So then, I think all these things Buddha went to show us, to show the future generation, that by ascetic practice you can't achieve seeing the truth. You know, so all this step by step. Anyway, then after that, then Buddha went under the Bodhi tree. Then from the sutra point of view, uh, if I use the word sutra, then Mahayana Sutra point of view, Buddha achieved enlightenment by seeing the true nature of dependent origination. Form is emptiness, emptiness is form. That's what Buddha realized. That is the true essence that and I don't need to describe about that particularly right now, but you all know Heart Sutra, form is emptiness, emptiness is form. There's no other form than emptiness. There's no other emptiness is form. So then the Buddha discovered the nature of dependent origination, which is like core of the Buddhist teaching. All all phenomena is dependent. Because it's dependent, therefore it is emptiness. Because it's emptiness, so therefore it's possible. It's dependent. So there's no independent. Devoid of independent existence was the teaching that Buddha discovered, and he, Avalokiteshvara and Shariputra, Buddha was there sitting, blessed them. He says, at the beginning, he says, the blessed one, and then the discussion of those two. And at the end, Buddha said, well done, O son of the noble family, or well done, by seeing the true nature of, of all phenomena. And even each one of them, no, first no eye, no ear, no nose, no this, no that. Then finally, even, then it goes further deeper. There's nothing to attain and nothing not to attain too. There is, so if you say emptiness, what is there to attain in emptiness? Is totally transcendent. There's nothing to attain from that point of view. But that doesn't mean there is nothing to attain. There is something to achieve and fully experience emptiness on the subjective level. You transcend from this ignorance of duality. So therefore, we need to really look at Dharma very deeply and carefully. And I think in America, you see, we are not living in a medieval time. Medieval time, people are pretty much based on blind faith. It's still there are today, but you all are college and university educated people, so you know how to analyze, you know, and any kind of fanaticism, you saw the fanaticism or extremism is not really the way of phenomena or way of life. And it makes you curious. It makes you curious to search what is the truth, you know. Uh, and that's what I think when you come to the Dharma, you already equipped with that kind of logic, a certain level of logic, and a certain level of knowing how to analyze. It gives you tremendous blessing. I would say use the blessing to really try to discover the Dharma. Then when you discover the Dharma, you find Buddha Dharma is defined into two parts. One is called relative truth and one is called absolute truth. Relative truth is all about cause and effect. And you can say with the dependent origination, dependent is cause and effect. In fact, when we look at the dependent nature, there are two aspects of dependent nature. One is the causal aspect of dependent nature, you know, all things, how things happens due to cause and effect. There are so many factors involved, which is the grosser level of dependent origination. Then the subtle level of dependent origination, finally, is just merely label a posit, merely label posit. So what does that mean? We call right hand, you know, but we call right hand because there was a left hand. But actually, right hand, when you look, dissect and look, you can't even find right hand in reality, absolute reality. You just simply label right, you simply label left. So this all phenomena is finally simply labeled on a very subtle level of dependent origination. On a grosser level of dependent origination, yes, there is right hand, there is left hand, but actually they are all based on this, for example, from your neighbor house, you have a left house and a right house. So if someone calls you, yeah, from your left house, but then there is another house beyond that. And from that point of view, that left house become a right house. Anyone talking to them will say, oh, you're next to your right house. They would never say your left house. So you see, it's simply merely posit on that very subtle level. And so therefore, the nature of all phenomena is emptiness. And so, but it's not like nothingness. Now, emptiness, when we talk about, it's a very deep subject and very deep nature. In fact, it is said that those who view the emptiness in the wrong way can be destroyed, such as seeing as like nothingness, such as seeing like it's like void. It's not void. It's it's like possibility happening all the time, but without any inherent existence. In fact, at some point, you even transcend the very concept of, oh, it is concept, you transcend the concept of all designation. Because as long as you hold some designation, your mind is again fall into some extreme, like our minds fall into so many extremes. So therefore, Buddha Dharma, the very fact that Buddha explained of the relative truth and absolute truth, you know, and that also further defined, as I just explained, that the relative truth, uh, grosser dependent origination, subtle dependent origination. At some point, it's just simply merely label, and so then it takes you to much deeper level of consciousness, much deeper level. Then, from the tantric point of view, such as deity practice, deity practice. If things are completely empty, nothing, there will be no deity practice. If things are completely void, there will be no mention of compassion. If things are completely devoid and void, there will be no mention of abandoning negativity or create positivity. Fact that, it's not nothingness or somethingness. Ultimately, when you meditate, if you say, oh, this is, there is something to grasp, you fall into an extreme. Or there is nothing to grasp, if your mind can also fall into extreme. But so therefore, words can only have limitation. Hear what I'm trying to say. Yes, so I make two statements. I said one statement, there is something to experience emptiness from the subjective point of view. Otherwise, where would the word realization comes from? If it's just empty nothingness, void. The word realization implies awareness to be recognized. In fact, let me tell you one thing. From the Dzogchen point of view, many religions talk about indescribable thing. Oh, the God is indescribable. Or Bhagavan is indescribable. Allah is indescribable. Or the shamanists maybe have their own idea, or maybe the god of the tree is indescribable, god of the water is indescribable. They may have all kinds of that expression. But in Buddhism, in the Dzogchen teaching, it says, just simply saying indescribable is not enough. Just saying indescribable, then your mind just is left like what we will call a lame duck sort of mind. You know, it says to get certainty, awakening to that indescribable state is how indescribable should be, like recognition of awareness. Recognition of awareness, yes, if you look from the theoretical point of view, if you say it's empty, that's again an extreme. If you say it's not empty, that's again an extreme. So your mind is so used to duality, so it always shifts from one extreme to the other. The essence is not something you can, it's beyond ordinary mind, means beyond dualistic mind. So there is also a word saying, "Tuantam lui chuyul min luni kunso bimparte." The ultimate awakening, awareness, is not the comprehension of dualistic mind, because dualistic mind is relative, you know, it's not absolute. So therefore, you know, what we call like then as you through your practice, we would say once your habits and afflictions, the habits of affliction, as they get purified, and then you feel more open, more free, more joy, without uh, uh, without the reaffirmation that we always seek. It's just simply a presence. Awareness is a presence. Right now, we don't have a presence of awareness. We are constantly identifying ourselves with something. I'm this, or I look like this, or or I need to do this, or I'm this, I'm American, I'm Tibetan, I'm Indian, whatever. We identify with something all the time, a certain level of personality, or how I should act, how I should behave. Always pretense. Those are all facade. We don't have a presence of awareness. So always depending on something that we cannot rely. And when they changes, your emotion changes, your conceptual changes, then your whole life begin to change. It's underneath the floor. There's like an earthquake. And this earthquake is like rattling all the time. How scary it is when there's a like even 3-point earthquake or 2-point earthquake. We don't even hearing there is an earthquake, we feel threatened. Now think about how deep inside that the earthquake happening, that you're relying on this facade as like absolute. You're taking refuge in your emotion. You're taking refuge in some ideas that cannot last. That's not your true nature. Because it's not your true nature, so therefore is affliction, and this affliction brings suffering, called samsara. So it's not a place to be attached. Samsara is definitely not a place to be attached because samsara is built on ignorance. So you want to love your ignorance, that's a different thing. But if you want to get out of your ignorance, you need to really look into your mind. You need to find true awareness. And that's what we are trying to do through meditation practice. That's what Buddha explained in the Heart Sutra. Even in this simple shamatha meditation, you're introduced to your thoughts. And it says that, when you see your thoughts arising, let go the thought. You don't have to cling to that thought. Because if you do, you will lose on a deep down on your path. So, because for beginners, I would say for deep down on your path, you will never get your awareness because you will always rely on some emotion, some dualistic thought to identify yourself. Oh, I'm this because, I'm like this, or I'm, like that. What is it? Some Western philosophy said, I exist because I think, or something like that. I think, therefore I am, or something like that. Yeah, something like that. So basically, relying on some personality. So it's unreliable. At the end of the day, uh, uh, you how many when you in this world, how many professors go through depression? How many psychologists, those who are supposed to teach other people their state of mind, how many they are in depression? They need to take pills. So therefore, until you really have some glimpse, some feeling of your true deep awareness, one is always like, you know, depending on some idea, whether you call it emotion, whether you call your country, whether you call your people, doesn't matter. It can be anything. And those will all, uh, it's like a earthquake happening underneath your ground, in your mind. So therefore, why bodhicitta now? Think about Mahayana teaching. Why bodhicitta is so important. Is compassion in one way. We need to separate the meaning of bodhicitta because bodhicitta comprises of relative compassion and absolute compassion. That's what is called bodhicitta. Compassion is just simply a compassion. Uh, from the Buddhist point of view, we would call the relative, but not necessarily from the other religion point of view, because it's completely based. It's wonderful. You know, all religion talk about forgiveness, talk about compassion, and that's fine. So, what is the difference between Buddhism talking about compassion, bodhicitta, versus a general compassion in other teachings? Other teaching is based on completely based on faith. You see a creator, uh, and then you follow, you know, a good Christian, a good theistic Hindu, whatever, the Jainism, you know, good other theistic would be forgiving, kind, wonderful. But until, but then problem is when you still hold that there is a self, then that self can swing really at some point, go crazy. You will not able to maintain that compassion all the time because the self will come back and like a creep. It will creep through, like today we have a pandemic. It can creep through like a pandemic. It can creep like a cancer, the self, which is the main ignorance. So one will lose the whole perspective of that kindness. That kindness will only be dependent on condition of that particular moment and particular environment of that moment. So if things are like, you know, conditions are prevailing, peaceful, and you are among good friends, it will work. But it will only work on a conditional level. It can never work on the awareness level. Yes, by good action and good kindness, it will purify definitely your habits, such as you don't allow your negative habits to come. You know, whether you're a religious person or not, people, those who are not religion, also do that. For example, drug habilitation, alcohol habilitation. You know, you don't have to be a believer. You try to cut through that habit and then you try to discipline yourself. But that doesn't mean that you are transcended simply by discipline. One day you meet some bad friends and he or she just give you alcohol or some drug, and then you start it, and then again the whole thing starts all over. You're not going to be free. You're only free for a certain moment, for a particular, you know, it's kind of like better than nothing, but it's not absolute. What we are talking about with the Dharma, particularly all of you practitioners, you're seeking absolute realization. You're seeking the truth for like transcending from this ignorance. For that, you have to really go deeper and see, understand the relative nature and absolute nature. Even from the Buddhist teaching, you know, even the compassion is also considered relative compassion, you know, forgiveness, all our conduct, cause and effect, are all religious relative teaching. They are not considered absolute teaching. Absolute teaching is like comes from deep level of going inner deep into your awareness. And by realizing, then you realize, and when the awakening happens, you realize the union of the relative and absolute in one. Like the essence of relative is absolute, the expression of the absolute is relative. So, what is relative? All appearance is relative. And where the cause and effect function in your life on appearance, like you see, appearance mean your mind has the awareness of your mind has a, you know, all the appearance, what you see, what you hear, you know, taste, all our five sensorial experience happening on the appearance level. The way the karma functions on the appearance level. where the cause and effect functions on the appearance level, where the interdependent function on the appearance level. So therefore, Nagarjuna said, Tenjing Diljung Matopa Chogayopa Mayino, without dependent origination, without interdependence, there's no phenomena, there's no appearance, Nagarjuna said. Teacher Tongi Matopa Chogayopa Mayino. Same thing, without seeing emptiness, there is again no phenomena. So the emptiness in appearance is like one coin with two sides. So this is very, um, uh, and then there are furthermore, like Padmasambhava said, my view is higher than the space. More, it's like infinite like the space. But my respect for the cause and effect is minute. So that's, of course, Guru Rinpoche, showing us the way, uh, one person climbing on the stair to reach the roof, or one person quest of spiritual practice. At the end of the day, we all know we need to transcend spiritual materialism, isn't it? We need to transcend spirit. And that's really the main message of Buddha Dharma from the very beginning. It's called lesser the attachment, the more openness will come. Then finally, on the highest, uh, you know, uh, like in the Vajrayana practice or Mahayana practice, for example, practice of generosity. Practice of generosity we call paramita, not simply generosity, but paramita of generosity, paramita of ethics, paramita of patience, paramita of concentration, paramita of samadhi. But we can skip that word paramita, and we can just call generosity, ethics, patience, concentration, samadhi, and diligence. We can just simply have skipping that last one called paramita. Now, paramita because become the crucial point towards enlightenment. Without the paramita, you're going to be born in the sixth realm of samsara or in the phenomenal realm, cause and effect. Being because your mind has awareness, so this awareness creates the cause and effect, and then there is some experience, which the birth of that experience is called the six realms or three world system in your situation, your condition of life. But when we add the last word, six paramita, you be generous, but you transcend, you know. And how do you transcend through the practice of generosity, like meditation to action? Buddhism, has view, meditation, and action. It's real, and when you talk view, for example, how can a person get realized or how can person bring everything into practice to achieve the highest level of realization by transcending from the six realms and three world system? By seeing the last six part called paramita. Paramita, how do you see that? So then we have to go to, as a person practice the paramita, is a person who is subjective mind, awareness, person practicing that. And when you practice anything, or when you relate to anything in your life, let's put it that way, whether it's your kitchen sink relationship, or whether it's your friend's partner, how you relate to your environment, surrounding, anything, sound, smell, taste, anything. Way to relate, there's a subjective part, there's an objective part, and then there is the action part. You can say, here's the subjective part, there's the objective part, then there's the action, how you engage with those sensorial or physical or environment, whatever it is. Then you know that you know, what in the Heart Sutras say, the five skandha to be empty. The nature of five skandha is emptiness. Same thing, the nature of objective person, even if it's a person, you know, when you see the physical buildup is based on atom. Atom finally, you know, completely beyond description, uh, and what we would call a possibility, probability, means there is nothing you can fixate in. There's no fixation in actuality. It's beyond fixation. Meaning is beyond independent. Is a dependent means is beyond fixation. So therefore, if it's beyond fixation, object is emptiness. Action is also the same nature, and the subjective is also this subjective emotion is also the same nature. Subject physical is also the same nature. Subject emotion is also the same. So therefore, when you so you transcend means you see the reality, you see the true nature. So when you see of the true nature, then you transcend from that cycle of dualistic, cycle of where one is trapped. So that practice of generosity become transcending generosity, not just like where you seal it up in again in some uh, energy which is trapped, which is known as ego or self. You transcend from self, whether objective self or subjective self or action self. Then, of course, you know, now as a practitioner, you know, um, practitioner, when we talk practitioner, many levels of practitioner, beginning practitioner, middle level of practitioner, senior practitioner, realized practitioner, and unrealized practitioner. There are many levels of practice. But it's important as a practitioner, you know, those who are beginners and middle level and senior practice, those who are not enlightened in the awakening mind yet, they need to really like reflect, you know, when you're doing, try to keep the awareness of, you know, one word, more open, and uh, and don't be like a child or then who, you know, like constantly reaffirming you from their parents, sort of. For example, a little child always need like reassuring. And if we try to reassure our emotions or our ideas all the time, you will never be free of this self, because we are habituated in this self for so long time. The self will just be there, whatever you do. And so therefore you do not transcend from that. And same thing with the, you know, ethical practice. Buddha said, you know, to the monks, if a monk or nun, if they think I'm superior than the other ordinary people, then again they're trapped. Because then what happens? You don't see reality. You do not transcend. It's not that Buddha wants to all his monks and nuns, folks around to be nice looking, gentle people, you know, political right. That's not the point. The point is awakening, realization, awakening. And since we all seek freedom and liberation will not come with extreme falling into ethical practice. And in fact, we call puritanicalism. And as we say, it's too good to be true. And sometimes the world really, you know, it's a fool's world, you know. We have to be a little realistic. So, isn't it our President Bill Clinton? Did you smoke? Yes, I smoked, but I didn't inhale. And everybody likes to believe that. It's, this is how, you know, always the mind needs something to cling to. There's no opening. It's okay. You can smoke for smoke. Then what? Whether you just inhale or whether you out, you just smoke. Okay. But he used to say, I didn't inhale. And people like to hear that also. See how everyone is trapped. You know, I have respect for President Clinton. He's a wonderful man. You know, I have nothing against him. I'm not disrespecting but saying that. But what I mean is, this is how we do every day in our own environment. I'm just giving you an example. That was a funny example. That's how we do with our companion. That's how we do with our kitchen sink relationship, as we call. Or, you know, whatever our surrounding, we always do that. So, you know, just be a little relaxed. You know, really, I want to share this. His son is Dujum Rinpoche, previous Dujum Rinpoche, Jigta Lishi Dorje, my teacher, who I spent so many years, so fortunate. And his always would tell me, you know, in every moment, in every situation, relax. So at that time, you know, being in his presence was so open and liberating in some way. I never really understood what it really meant, relax, you know. And of course, maybe I was too young to understand further deeper meaning at that time. What that, when he talked about relax, he wasn't talking about go to a lazy sofa and lie down and relax and drink a beer and watch a TV. You know, that's not the kind of relax he was talking about. He was talking about relax mean don't get uptight. You know, don't kind of nag for every little thing happening in the universe. Just be open. And then very interesting, you know, of course, his soulness, Padmasambhava emanation. His soulness daughters told me one time, they shared with me, they said, our father used to tell us, the lesser the conceptual you have, the better it will be. You see, the lesser the puritanical we are, they'll be make the world be more sane and more better world. Some people too much conceptual, too much uptightness. This, that, this ism, that ism, this feminism, manism, you name it these days, you know, this and that. It's just like we get caught up in very neurotic state. There's no compassion. The more your heart is open and the more you judge people, your heart will be more open. You will find more joy and you will bring more joy to other people in your world. The more you feel like, oh, I'm being victimized by this. I'm being victimized by this. So many today's people get caught up in this victim thing, you know. I really feel like it's scary when I look at. They lose their whole compassion, and then they say, "Oh, I was treated this way, or I was done this way, and I was this victim thing." You know, where is? Do you ever think that Tara, the great wisdom Tara, Arya Tara, will become a Arya Tara just if she think about victimization? Or our Lokeshwara will become our Lokeshwara if they ever think victimization? None of the Buddhas will be Buddhas today, what we know today, that, you know, if they think just like all this victimization, they will be all be trapped. They came out of it. After all, really, from this sense, we should use our logic and sense. Your happiness comes from others' affection. At the same time, your happiness will come from working with others, including forgiveness. Let go. Move forward. What is there to hold on to? It's just no point. That's the message of Aryatara. That's the message of Avalokeshvara. That's the message of Buddha and Padmasambhava. That's the message of all enlightened beings. And finally, that's the message of our inner heart. That we can find realization by transcending those, not by being trapped in a self of victimization or anything, any level of neurosis. So therefore, you know, Mahayana knows deeper about human psychology. Hinayana, yes, but understanding of Mahayana is deeper, sutra, deeper, you know, knowing your affection, including your fame, including your power, including your wealth, including all the good thing happening with affection of others. So all the more reason to forgive, all the more reason to love, all the more reason to, and then besides seeing the ultimate, you go, further deeper you go, then ultimately further you're seeing the essence of all being is truly awakening. In fact, all problems are opportunity to transform. They're not problematic. They're just simply to work with. And everyone has different habits in this universe. We come with so many lifetimes habits. They're all like possibility. How do you get the most beautiful flower? You need the manure. Without the manure, you can't, there will be no flower. Same thing, affliction of others, you can just meet them as a manure to where a beautiful flower is born. And therefore, even the word Padma Sambhava, from the lotus born, very profound meaning, like purity. Lotus symbolizes purity. So our deeper awareness is purity. Our affliction is like our manure. So it's not that you have to hate your affliction. You just see that and you use it for the right thing. Such as without suffering, those suffering is not great. People go through suffering that we need to help. But you understand, your compassion grows when you see at the same time others suffering and how you can free them. You will reach to them so that both get enlightened. When we make prayer, maybe we may the whole mandala get enlightened at the same time. There are many, many words like that. So anyway, uh, we need to practice Dharma in the right way. And our compassion, we really need to look deeper into our compassion, how to make it grow. In fact, there is prayer also. May this bodhicitta mind, which has not arisen, may it arise. And whatever has arisen, may it increase. You know, that's the prayer. And in fact, it's not a punishment to practice bodhicitta. It's not a taxation by IRS to practice compassion. It is a reality. Because when you see the union of relative truth and absolute, it's the reality. It's a tremendous possibility that brings you joy and freedom and to others, bodhicitta mind. That's why bodhicitta mind is the supreme mind. And also in the Bodhichara Avatara teaching, it says that mother of enlightenment is compassion. And without compassion, there will be no enlightenment. It all makes total sense when you look deeper, combining those teachings of Shantideva and then put that together with the Heart Sutra, right? Then you can see what it really meant. So that's I want to say today. And then now let's do a meditation practice. Okay, now please sit. You all know how to meditate. Sit in the right posture. Relax, not uptight. Whether it's mind or whether it's your body, both of them not uptight. Completely relax and be here and now. And then go to your breath. Focus to your breath. Your mind is with the breathing. Just simply touch and go, so to speak, with the breath. So you're with the breath. When you breathe out, breathe in, that's it. Nothing to make it up. You don't have to make, this philosophy or that philosophy, or is it compassion? Should I blow compassion out, or should I take in negativities? This is not a Tonglen practice when you do meditation. Simply with the breath, your breath. So your breath is your measurement that your mind is there. When you lose the awareness that your mind is, when you lose the awareness of not being with the breath, then you've lost your mind. So then again, the breath will bring it back to you. So go back to the breath. Okay? So sit straight, relax, and here we start. And then if you feel like you have got distracted, that you've been under the influence of some thoughts, don't feel like guilt trip. Oh, this is not good. Then you're making it up again. This is not good. Then the mind again will, get distracted and you lost the presence. Just simply recognize that you've been distracted and then go back right to the meditation. Learn to relax beginning meditators usually have slightly uptightness because one is so used to, get nosy into all issues that we bring into a meditation practice too. Oh, this should be like this should be like this is not right. Don't do that. Don't panic. Just drop it and just trust deeper. Sort of trust yourself. Just drop it and then let be. Drop deeper within yourself. Like the body relax, mind relax, and then just go to the breath. Of course, thoughts will arise, emotion will arise. Recognize them as just simply thoughts, and then just go back to the breath. Okay, wonderful. So then, if you have any questions, we can have a question answer period now. Well, I think you all, the meditation really work. All your issues are gone. Okay. So
Yep.
then, um, um, every day keep your practice.
I
Those who are
have,
doing, yes, go ahead.
okay, I am wondering what the best way to make decisions are because I've become very trepidous about making decisions. I have certainly made some poor ones in my life. So, what is the best basis or method of decision making, short of getting a divination?
You know, entire Hinayana teaching, it says, to sums it up, I think this probably may help you to how to make a decision. Anything directly or indirectly, if it's going to harm someone, whether you by your speech or by your action, then you should try to avoid that. And in anything directly or indirectly can benefit someone, then you should base your decision based on that, which can benefit them, then benefit you. As I said, your happiness comes from other people. So it's important we should step out of this self-centered. We are so used to the self, then we are so used to the self-centeredness. Uh, and that can how usually so many of our thoughts and decisions are based on our habituation of self and self-centeredness. So we need to change that. In order to change that, we need the Dharma practice. And within Dharma practice, I really would suggest you all do Tonglen practice in the morning. You know,
Mhm.
first thing in the morning when you get up, do Tonglen practice. Then when you develop a compassion through the Tonglen practice, it will affect your decision making, whatever you do during the whole day. So then step by step, you will move from there. So do Tonglen practice. That will help you how you make decision.
I do Tunlin every morning because I do Nundro every morning
Very
from
good.
4 a.m. to 7. But uh, I understand that the best way to make a decision is what will bring the greatest happiness to the greatest number of people. But since I'm very much alone in my life, making a change, you know, or contemplating moving, that kind of thing, really. And now that I can see patients via telemedicine, so somehow I always, when I ask for direction in making a decision, what would most further my practice and put me in a place that would bring the greatest benefit to my patients and the people in my life. But nevertheless, uh, ultimately, I need to decide whether to stay in Los Angeles or get out of Los Angeles because it's become kind of crazy here.
Okay. I think very good question. Um, you see, we may be alone in some level, you know, if one is living by oneself. It seems that way. After all phenomena is a seemingly phenomena. Even one may just by living with oneself, but you live in a world, a larger world, where there is people, where there you have, engagement with your patients and with people around every day, whether how you deal with your house, and finally, how you deal with yourself. So you're never alone right now. You see, you're engaging all the time. And then finally, the best way to deal with decision making, uh, can you hear me?
Perfectly.
Okay. Uh, Finally, how to make decision? You look in the past great masters, whether enlightened female masters, enlightened females, or enlightened male, Padmasambhava, and then Lady Chhoje, Mandarava, Milarepa. They, in order to deal with all these issues, even he was, let's start from the Shakyamuni Buddha. He went under the Nerejana tree. He traveled seeing how to deal with his mind, all the issues. And then like Milarepa and many of the great masters still to this day, they, Milarepa went to the mountains, as just trying to, how he can deal with his surrounding and issues and decision making, you can say.
Hmm.
And then, like, people go to retreats, weekend retreats, week retreats, 10 days retreats, 1 month retreat. All really they finally is really within your mind. In order to understand your mind, the best way to understand is to really be in some kind of quiescence environment that you're not bugged by others. You can really reflect. Now, that is only beneficial those who Dharma teaching, those who know how to meditate. But those who don't know how to meditate, you tell them, put them in a room, and then they will go crazy. They need to, engage with someone. But those who know how to sit, how to know, then that is ultimately the most profound way, such as in Tibet, people do 3 years retreat. 7 years retreat, 9 years retreat. There are people who do life retreat. Anyway, during their time, they're in by themselves. And even in this country, I really, suggest people do like long-term retreat, like time to time when you have a free time, do more meditation. Try to understand yourself. That's the only way you will understand. Not only understand, you will have your mind presence into a realization happening. Otherwise, if you just go with the ordinary sense of lifestyle, your mind is out. Just look, even when we're sitting, how much our mind is out, how much distraction is there. There's lack of meditation, lack of mindfulness, of course. It will not be the same. If you keep doing meditation, your mind will transform. It won't be like that. But right now, just completely gone with the wind. So how can you ever, in that gone with the wind, influenced by our afflictions, by the notion of self, and everything is a self. Your anger is a self, your attachment is a self, your jealousy is a self, your engagement, your whole environment is like so real and that's how one is trapped, fixation into it, and that's what brings suffering. So therefore, during the weekends, whenever one is time, or during the daytime, evening, morning, doesn't matter. Try to bring meditation into action, and then you will see a transformation. Yeah,
And wouldn't it be better if I was in the mountains?
that
Because
depends.
I come home, I have to like burn Google to get that the crazy energy cleared.
Yes, so that's most people do, but then you get sink into Google. So, of course, it'll be better in the mountain, but you can't blame, you need to discipline yourself. At the beginning, a discipline is very important. You say, today this is my meditation time, this is my practice time. Rain or shine, you just do it. And then after some time you will find the balance. Then doesn't matter where you are, in the mountain or in the city, makes no difference. But until you get establish awareness, you best is to be in a quiet place if you can. Otherwise, you can do that. People have to go to work, they come back, they do their practice at home. That will balance things out. And then at some point, you will have vacation. You can do longer practice, longer retreats.
Well, you forget we've been in quarantine for quite a time. So I've been mainly in my apartment and not seeing anyone. I'm seeing my patients via telemedicine, Zoom.
Yes,
You know, I haven't seen my,
yes.
we just talk on the phone occasionally. Like I have not seen anyone other than
Yes.
on a regular
Mm-hmm.
with any frequency. You know, I've
Yeah.
had
Yeah,
maybe,
yeah, even then you may have noticed, how much you have to deal with decision making, even to yourself. What clothes I'm going to wear today? What going to eat today? What have, all this thing. And actually, one is just external, one is internal. But there is chattering going on all the time. External chattering, internal chattering. And as long as you're trapped in those chattering, it's the same thing. You need
thank
to
you.
transcend from all chattering. And way to do is through meditation practice. You can't, there's no other method than meditation practice.
Right. But one's meditation can flourish more in a quieter, more remote environment than,
Yes, definitely, definitely. Yes,
there's been like,
if you can do that, definitely. In a quiet environment where you feel relaxed and you happy, that's a very good place to do. But there's no excuse not to do in your
oh no,
where
I do
you live.
all I do. Because I don't have a life, so it's perfect for meditation. I
Okay.
mean, I've been really serious about my practice all this time since COVID hit, because it shows us the impermanence and the uncertainty of the future. And plus, I'm older, and if not now, when, right?
Yes, absolutely,
You
absolutely.
know,
Yes, yes. Yeah, so you
I-
need to, you have your precious life, and then precious life, of course, it will come to an end, this life, sooner or later. And as we get older, we know it's going to come sooner than later. And then whatever the remaining time we have, we must utilize in the best way through bringing more bodhicitta and doing more Tonglen practice and then doing meditation, then it will be worthwhile. So those are very important. So don't, not wasting one life, really focusing to inner values, inner realization is very important. So please do that. Good.
thank you. I promise.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, then we can do a world peace prayer now.
Mhm.
In the world in general, and in this nation, may not be names, disease, famine, war, and suffering be heard. May virtuous qualities, merit, and prosperity greatly increase, and may continuous good fortune and sublime well-being perfectly rise. In the world in general, and in this nation, may not even the names, disease, famine, war, and suffering be heard. May virtuous qualities and merit and prosperity greatly increase, and may continuous good fortune and sublime well-being perfectly rise. In the world in general and in this nation, may not even the names, disease, famine, war, and suffering be heard. May virtuous qualities and merit
qualities,
and
merit, and
prosperity greatly increase, and may continuous good fortune and sublime well-being perfectly rises. By this merit, may all beings gain omniscience, and thus defeat the neuroses and negative actions which are the enemies. From the turbulent waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of cyclic existence, may all beings be liberated. Thank you very much. Everyone, have a wonderful weekend. And please, most important thing, keep Dharma awareness in your mind for your own happiness, not for Buddha, not for Padmasambhava, not for anybody, just for yourself. Do Tonglen for yourself. Do meditation for yourself. Then time to time in between, read Dharma texts like life history of Padmasambhava, Buddha, Lady Shitsoge, Lady Mandarava. Many Dharma books are there. Read them, you know, every day, some passage. And read also like stanzas, you know, in the Bodhicharyavatara teachings, few chapters, and think about those things. And then meditate. And then, you know, at the end of the day, you need to see, because you saw the self is not real. You saw that self is in actually a false mind that trap, and we can get out. Therefore, liberation is possible. You can see that. How we are trapped with a habit. How we need to transcend from this. So you can see liberation is right next door. But as long as we don't do it, it's not possible. So therefore, you know, make diligent, do diligent practice to your practice and to bodhicitta, and then it will be wonderful. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone.
Good night,
Take
Rinpoche.
care.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Welcome. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm waving and I can't even see you.